So I did what was expected of me and what I thought made me a good lawyer. And I was, doing all of those things. But as the years continued to pass, even though I was checking the boxes and getting accolades or recognized for my work, I was really, really unhappy and couldn't really pinpoint why. And I know now that I was really unhappy because my practice and the way that I was doing it and the way that I was practicing law is really not aligned with my core values or the way that I feel about divorce or the way that families and children should be handled in divorce. And so in the spring of 2020, I opened Claire Samuels Law. And I really changed my approach to really driving home and making sure that I'm educating clients about all of the processes available to them, but specifically talking about the catastrophic damage that is inflicted upon the parties and the children if you engage in an all-out court-driven warfare related to custody. So I really made a shift there. And now I primarily focus my practice on all out-of-court resolutions.
I love the way you frame it on your website because you talk about a becoming divorce, which I think is just such a beautiful phrase in terms of approaching this process with integrity and maintaining your dignity and not operating out of a place of being fearful, but really feeling calm and confident, gaining information and resources, which really pairs nicely with the concepts that we talk about in the co-parenting specialist training program.
100%. I loved that. I love the way that the training was organized and, that first day, really even going through the different stages of grief that parties are experiencing when they're going through that process, because as practitioners, I really believe that that helps us relate, have more compassion, more empathy, relate to how they are doing, and puts us in a better position to meet them where they are to actually help them.
Right. I think you are 100% spot on about that, because I run across so many professionals that come to this process, right? We deal with some of the worst stories. We hear horrible things that happen, and families are devastated by this process. And I think it's really easy to become very desensitized to just how hard it is for parents to be compassionate. We kind of fall under this idea that, good parents just make good decisions. And bad parents don't. And so if you're going through divorce, we tell you not to badmouth your co-parent. Well, a good parent just doesn't do it. And rarely, I would say 99.9% of the time, is it that easy? Right? It's really hard to bring your best self to this process, and the support that you have makes such a huge difference.
Right. And so many, something that was really helpful too were definitely the tools, the sticky ideas that we talk about, the like t-shirt slogans, like putting those applicable things into practice and giving people a framework, because otherwise it feels, as a lawyer, you can feel like you're scolding or managing your clients. Exactly. Like being like, don't do that. Like, but it's also not real for parents just to be like, mom and dad love you, and these are adult issues, and we're going to handle it, and you don't worry about it. That never happens or plays out that way in real life. So, what can you talk about them in an age appropriate situation, which is also why I love your book, because it, but it breaks it up that way. I stalked you first, but it's such a good resource because it's got those snippets that are age appropriate, right? Because of course, what you're talking about with your 3-year-old is very different than what you're talking about with your 13-year-old. But just telling them not to worry about it and you've got it managed, which is kind of the go-to for, I think, many attorneys, isn't helpful. And if you're on the front lines and you are in a situation where your client hasn't started working with a therapist or a coach or someone else that's also trying to weave in some of these good talking points and tools, you've got to be able to help them. And I think that that's what I felt less equipped to do before this training.
Well, so that's a really good segue into kind of, what did you find most valuable about the program? What was really like one of your biggest takeaways, or were there any specific tools that really stood out that you find have been really useful for you? Because you were in the, September
Yeah,
cohort.
Yes,
so it's been
right.
almost a year, right? So
yes.
Looking back, has there been anything that you found that really stood out that you've carried forward in your practice today?
Yeah, I really like checking in with my clients, the what's your number tool, where we talk to them about where they are that particular day, because the kind of conversation you're going to have with them certainly is driven by, maybe they're having a great day, maybe it's completely horrible. And then you can go from there and decide how much you can really address that day. But I mean, there were so many, you, Mostyn Guthrie, Gold Star, hallmark of all of those trainings that are so great is just you get such a robust amount of information and tools and cheat sheets that it's really nice to be able to have those now, just to pull them out as a frame of reference. Because I think also, just in that attorney segue, I think that I was used to focusing on the problem at hand, trying to get to as an attorney, as a mediator, trying to focus on the problems right in front of us. Let's get to a settlement. But now I think because of the tools, and the powerful questions to help clients, clarify their goals and what they're looking for, we can really focus on what is like the long-term plan. What is the big picture that really sets a family up for success, an enduring situation where they're not going to be back in my office or back in a mediation room trying to solve problems. Not that you can solve for them all, but really trying to think about, well, where are we going to need the transitions, and what will your 5-year-old need from you, and how might that change, or what do we want to put in place to reevaluate where things are once we're transitioning to middle school or what have you. Just kind of like not being afraid to have those more thoughtful conversations versus the superficial, let's just solve the problems of today.